Actua Soccer 3 would be the third entry in the iconic Actua Soccer series, released for the PlayStation in 1998. And this game would be a vast improvement over the previous two titles in the series, with more teams to play as, with a list of over 25 leagues with a total of 450 teams and over 10,000 players featured. And you also had the ability to customise your squad, customise the existing players' stats and attributes, while utilising various tactics to create better formations and different types of both attacking and defensive styles. And it would also use full motion capture from iconic players such as Alan Shearer and a few other English players from likes of Sheffield United and a couple of other teams that would create the whole look and feel of how the game played. Plus the game would also again be commentated by the legendary Barry Davis and even Martin O'Neill, so it tried to create a more authentic experience that, while still had arcade elements, it gradually started to try and focus on more simulation style aesthetics. And this game would also be the final entry in the Actua Soccer series, as by the time this game was released you started to see the likes of the FIFA series take off, and even the International Superstar Soccer series start to become a dominant force within the football genre itself. And while the Actua Soccer games were good at the time, unfortunately they did pale in comparison compared to the growth and the dominance of those two popular series, as the games in the Actua Soccer series played very differently to those gaming giants. The Actua Sports series itself would still go on to create a number of different games with the likes of Actua Tennis, even with Actua Ice Hockey and a couple of other games under different names, before eventually finishing up towards the latter end of the PlayStation's life cycle, say around 1999, early 2000. But it had a good run during the early years of the PlayStation, as it was one of the first sports series to truly become dominant on the platform, and even just in gaming in general, as Actua Soccer was considered to be the first full 3D game ever seen on a console that revolutionised the way we play sports today. Although while it was quite clunky, it still proved to be a very popular game, selling a ton of different copies and even going as far as being added to the PlayStation Platinum Collection. And then the sequel, Actua Soccer 2, would also improve on many dynamic features of the original, but again would still suffer from the same kind of clunkiness and poor quality AI that was a hindrance, or considered a hindrance, in the original game. So where does the third entry in the series stack up compared to the previous two? Well, again, this game tries to go for a complete overhaul compared to the original two games, and from a realistic standpoint it does have better graphics. In terms of the character models, it definitely is a lot more lifelike and it plays very differently. Although in saying, even though it has a lot of positive features, it is still somewhat lacking in certain departments, because the game is quite difficult to pick up and play. There's not really a beginner standpoint for this game as such. If you're an absolute beginner coming in, you will struggle to get a feel for how the game actually plays, even though it does play very much like the original two games. But by that point, when this game was released, the control systems and even the way it used certain features was starting to become quite outdated, especially when you compare it to the likes of even the iconic FIFA 98 and then even ISIS Pro 98, which in itself became and completely dominated the football genre for many years, and it completely changed the way how soccer games are played. Now, it's not to say that Actua Soccer 3 is a bad game. It still is a good game in its own right. It plays very differently, and it just wouldn't be as fluent or even as easy to pick up and play as the likes of the other two games as I've mentioned, as it still has a lot of issues and flaws that were prevalent that you would have noticed from the previous entries in the series. But it doesn't take away from the overall experience. It still has a great atmosphere. The one thing the Actua Soccer series did get right was the atmosphere, or the sound effects, even the commentary, like with Barry Davis and you had Martin O'Neill, and it felt like a very authentic soccer experience. The atmosphere around it was really well done, and that was the thing that I always found with all of the three games. That was the one thing that it really did well. Just the play factor of the game just wouldn't be as easy to pick up and play compared to the original games as such. Even Actua Soccer 2 I found to be a wee bit easier to pick up and play, but it's still a good entry point. And again, these games, while they may not be considered as the best games in the soccer genre, they also did help to pave the way for many future entries from other types of brands and soccer games that we now see and play today. And I do believe that if these games didn't exist, soccer games that we play today wouldn't be the same, or they would feel very different. So it is a testament to these games of the foundations that they set for everything that was meant to come after it. And it is worthwhile going back and playing these older games just for the nostalgic feel alone. And I highly recommend that if you want to go back and play soccer games, give the Actua Soccer series a try and see for yourself. While it may not be for everybody, you still will find some enjoyment out of it. As for me, it was definitely a big part of my gaming background, especially with the PlayStation over the years. So that's why I would always consider them and even recommend them for that fact alone. And I would love to know your thoughts on Actua Soccer 3 for the PS1, and what did you think of it back in the day? Is it your favourite entry in the Actua Soccer series? And what do you think of these football games in general? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the games in this series, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated of future videos. And in the meantime, if you want to see more content around other types of soccer games also released on the PS1, be sure to check out the playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.
A fantastic away win. I must admit I didn't hold any hope.